No.
A very good afternoon to you, sir. Hello.
Good afternoon.
Sir, I'll be beginning with the session at exactly 2 o'clock.
Yes.
That is in 1 minute.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
A very good afternoon to one and all present here. Today, I, Manini Sidhu, on behalf of Institute's Innovation Council of Geeta Ratan International Business School, welcome our esteemed guests, Professor Dr. Naresh Singh, Founder President, Asia Pacific and Asia Pacific Entrepreneurship Development Institute, Indore, and Mr. Naveen Kumar, Managing Director and CEO, Navshali Innovations, and all attendees on this webinar on entrepreneurial success and application of the business model canvas. Geeta Ratan International Business School was established in the year 2004. GIBS is affiliated to Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University, Delhi, and is approved by All India Council for Technical Education, Ministry of HRD, and the Government of India for technical courses, and Bar Council of India for law course. GIBS is currently offering postgraduate courses of MBA, MBA International Business, MCA, and undergraduate courses of BBA, BBA LLB, and BA LLB. GIBS has been graded A by National Assessment and Accreditation Council in the second cycle. GIBS has been rated A+ by State Fee Regulatory Committee, a fee committee of Government of NCT of Delhi, and Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University. CLS GIBS has been rated the highest grading A by Joint Inspection Committee of Government of NCT of Delhi and Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University. GIBS has been graded A by the Audit Cell of Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University consecutively from the past 8 years. Also, GIBS has been rated as number 2 Pan-India by Times Business School Survey consecutively for the year 2018 and 2019. Ministry of Education, Government of India has established an innovation cell with the purpose of systematically fostering the culture of innovation in all higher education institutions across the country. Under the guidance of MOE, Innovation Cell at GIBS focuses on creating a complete ecosystem for the students, which will foster the culture of innovation at the institute from ideas generation to pre-incubation, incubation, and graduating from the incubator as successful startups. Round the year, IIC keeps on organizing activities for the awareness and skill development of the students. This webinar of today is one such activity organized by the IIC at GIBS. The first guest speaker today is Professor Dr. Naresh Singh, Founder President, Asia Pacific EDI Indore. Sir has more than 2 decades of teaching, research, training, consulting, and project management experience. His main areas of expertise are microfinance, social entrepreneurship, NGO management, public policy, and business environment. Sir has worked with reputed management sectoral institutions like Institute of Health Management Research, Jaipur, Narsi Monji Institute of Management Studies, Mumbai, Entrepreneurship Development of India, Ahmedabad, and ITFI Business School, Gurgaon. Sir has developed PGDM and MBA courses in Sangvi and Chameli Devi groups of institutions in Indore as director. Sir is the member of several professional and academic bodies and have presented many research papers in national and international seminars and conferences in India and abroad. Sir has published more than 100 research papers, cases, caselets, articles, book reviews in referred national and international journals, edited books, conference proceedings, and newspapers. Sir has conducted more than 40 long-duration training and management development programs with more than 1,000 participants from India and abroad, representing non-governmental organizations, microfinance institutions, and government departments and ministries. I would now like to invite Professor Dr. Naresh Singh to please begin with the session and enlighten all of us.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to all of you. This is more of a monologue because I will be speaking from one side. But if you have questions, you can type or you can ask me. My email is also there. And today's topic is, can you hear me? Sitalji, can you hear me? So today's topic is hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You can hear me?
Yes, yes. Your voice is coming absolutely.
Yeah. So today's topic is entrepreneurial success and application of business model conveyance. That means that how we can develop good entrepreneurial practices or business or startup, and what should be the model for such businesses or enterprises. So I will beginning from the end, basically from the conclusion, where we will conclude our presentation, and we will start from conclusion itself. And this is very interesting, and the facts which will be known to the students. And to begin with, the history of civilizations on the earth everywhere started with entrepreneurship. It does not started from the job, seeking the job, but it started from creating the jobs and developing agriculture, industry, trade, and infrastructure. For example, the world's oldest famous Indus Valley civilization, our own civilization, was full of entrepreneurial adventures. You will see there were different kinds of the enterprises in that civilizations in Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Second important point is that why do we need entrepreneurship? We need entrepreneurship to bring the prosperity in the world, to create the wealth in the world. Because poverty anywhere in the world is the enemy of prosperity everywhere in the world. If the world is poor, there is no job creators, and the world is poor, then there will be so many problems related to health, education, unemployment, crime, and terrorism, and many more. So the issue of poverty can be addressed by inculcating entrepreneurial culture in this society. The point I want to make here, that if the country, if the community or the society is prosperous, it is creating wealth, then there will be more good quality of life. There will be improvement in the quality of life of the people in terms of living standards, in terms of the health, in terms of education and employment. So how we can make the society and communities and the nations prosperous and wealthy? We can do it by entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship and innovations go hands in hands. So entrepreneurship basically starting the enterprises, and innovations developing a business model canvas which is innovative. So entrepreneurship and innovations both go hands in hand. Innovations foster entrepreneurial development, as well as entrepreneurial culture creates innovations. So both are interrelated. On the one hand, innovations leads to entrepreneurial approach or success, and on the other hand, entrepreneurial success leads to innovations. Both are correlated. Thus, there is a need to think out of the box and tap the vast market at the bottom of pyramid. What is the bottom of pyramid? Like, we need to develop the market for the masses, for the majority of the population, not for the few people or the small percentage of the population. So those who are at the bottom of the pyramid, almost 80% of the population of our country, India, it is on the bottom of the pyramid. But we can tap this population in a different way by developing a profitable entrepreneurial success models or the good business canvas we can develop. To foster entrepreneurial environment, innovations are required in corporate sector. It is required in small and medium enterprises, family businesses, education sector, social sector, and institutions of governance. So you can develop entrepreneurial culture in any of these sectors. And what are these innovations? These innovations are related to strategy of the business, operations of the business, finance, human resources, technology, and regulations. So I will give some example to you. So let us begin the presentation. You are welcome in the presentation on entrepreneurial success and application of business model canvas. There are two paradoxes of development in India. So you will see here, this is one school of thought which believes that India will be in top 3 economies by 2025. Rural-urban population ratio will be 50-50. Now it is 65-50. In 2000, it was 75-25. So now it is 65-35. So by 2020, it will be 50-50. That means urban settlements are providing, urban locations are providing more employment opportunities, and there are migration from rural to urban areas. More employment opportunities will emerge, and we are comparing like Mumbai will become like Shanghai. So this is one development thought. Another is the development thought is this: you all live in Delhi. There is a farmer movement going on since last 3 months, and that is exactly the picture. Other school of thought believes that poverty will be concentrated more because of unequal accumulation of assets and capital. Other problems associated to poverty, like unemployment, debt, crime, poor health, these all will be acute. Therefore, coming back on the topic again, we need entrepreneurial success and application of a successful business model for entrepreneurial success. So is it, I think, clear to the students why we are we have chosen this topic, because this is a very important topic. So coming to what are the issues related here? If we can change this model, it can be changed only through, just a second. Just a second. I'm sorry, there was a disturbance in the neighborhood, therefore I had to go and
No problem.
so uh, uh, so we need to change this model, and this can be changed only through developing entrepreneurial success. Let us look the sustainable development goals. Earlier we had millennium development goals, and we were supposed to, the world were supposed to work in a better way by the end of the 20th century. But it could not be achieved, quality of life could not be achieved. Then sustainable millennium development goals, MDGs, were changed into sustainable development goals. And as of now, there is a situation out of 6.7 billion people in the world, 3 billion people live less than $1 per day. 80% of the world population has no access to financial services. Fewer than 2% of the poor people have access to only financial services from the sources other than money lenders. So majority of the poor people, they are dependent on the money lenders. Every year, nearly 10 million children die from disease that could have been prevented, like malaria, chikungunya, dengue, and other diseases. Every year, more than 100 million children are not able to attend primary school because their parents are poor and not able to afford their education. Now let us look at the situation in India. In India, according to the statistics of World Health Organization related to health status, child mortality under the age of 5 is more than 90 on 1,000 births. That means out of 1,000 births, 90 children, they die before the age of 5. And maternal mortality ratio is 540 on 1 lakh live births. So out of 1 lakh mothers who gives birth to children, 540 they die during the at the time of giving birth to children. The percentage of total expenditure of health as a percentage of GDP is quite low. It is only 5%. It should be somewhere about 10 to 15%. The government health expenditure is quite low, that is 18%, and the remaining 81% or 82% is the private health expenditure. So government is not affording the health expenditure. So how we can come out of this problem? We can come by developing entrepreneurial culture. And as I told you in the beginning, that entrepreneurship and innovations, they go hand in hand. One leads to another. So innovation is the mantra of solution. Innovation resides at the intersection. So what is innovation? It is a application of business model canvas. So innovation resides at the intersection of invention and insights, leading to the creation of social and economic value. If by your enterprise you are adding value in the society and economy, then you are creating innovation. Innovation is not like doing inventing something new. No, it is doing something differently. So that is the successful business model canvas. And what are the key factors driving change in innovation? Key factors in present world. The situation of the present world is, present society all over world is dynamics of a flattening world. Now it is a flattening world. What is flattening world? It is a flattening world in the sense like earlier there was a classroom, teachers were taking lecture, students were sitting on the chair. There was a hierarchy, but now we are connected with the same device, that is computer device. Similarly, in different organizations, IT sector, it is a flattening world now, like reducing the hierarchy. So the world is flattening now. Another example in the COVID-19 situation. What is happening now? There is a vaccine in India. So this vaccine is being taken by, being sent to other countries as well. It is being also, being given to our population, Indian population, but it is also being sent to other countries. So it is a flattening world now. Emergence of new capabilities, new situations are emerging, like the world has handled the COVID-19 situation in a very fast way, starting from using the mask, sanitizer, and then developing the vaccine and creating the health infrastructure. Evolution of information technology. Now you will see we all are connected with single device because we cannot go in the classroom because of different situations arise out of COVID-19. March of commoditization. Commodity is being sold at the global level on internet. Massive shift in demographics. Demography is shifting. People are students, young generation is adopting more technology. They are going to schools. Unpredictability and impact of change. There is a unpredictability as well. The world is very volatile in terms of the economic conditions. So in all these conditions, factors, innovation will play important role. And what are the innovations of the 21st century? These are the innovations which have openness, innovations which have collaborativeness. Like again, let us take the example of the COVID vaccine. It is collaborative. It is collaborative. The production unit is in India. Research is being done in other university in UK. The company belongs to United States. So it is collaborative, multidisciplinary. We work in a multidisciplinary environment now. The health professionals, IT professionals, educators, scientists, we all work together. And innovation is global now. It is not the country specific or location specific. Why does innovation matter? Innovation matter because of the products and services, innovation in products and services, innovation in process, innovation in business model, and innovation related to society. Therefore, innovation is very important. It generates high value, higher paying jobs. If you do innovations in startup, in enterprises, in business, so it will pay high value and higher paying jobs. It fuels wealth creation and profitability in the society and corporate sector. It creates new industries and markets. It spurs productivity and economic growth. It raises standard of living of the people, and it goes beyond invention. Invention is you have invented something new which was not existing in this world. But innovation, you are doing things differently within this world. So innovation is very important for creating jobs, for creating wealth, profitability, market, and the economic growth and living standards of the people. Innovations areas for tomorrow. What are the successful business model conveys where you can start your enterprises, you can do entrepreneurial success. So these sectors are related to information technology. You can do innovations in information technology. There are so many examples I will give. I have some small case studies which will be in the presentation itself, part of the presentation. But let us look now Paytm. He is a person simply graduate BTech from a very simple school nearby Bulandshahr in Western UP, and he has developed a lot of innovations, and then he started Paytm. So you can do innovations in information technology. Social entrepreneurship, there is lot of scope. I will discuss in the presentation after these slides. Public-private partnership, you can develop lot of like metros and all these things, and in health sector, education sector, lot of public-private partnership is going on. Like the college jeeps, it is also the example of public-private partnership. Like you have to be bound with the rules and regulations of the government, and then develop your own venture. So you can see it is a education venture. Then cooperative farming, we are talking about, our prime minister is talking on the cooperative farming. Farmers producers organizations are doing lot of good work in all over India, mainly in eastern Uttar Pradesh near Varanasi and Allahabad, and in South India as well. But these farmers, those who are on the agitation since last 3 months, they are not able to understand the innovations in the farming, and therefore the farmers are into the debt trap. They are committing suicide. Their income is not increasing. Our prime minister has a vision to double the income of the farmers, but unfortunately this movement, farmers movement, it is more of a political movement by created one segment of from western UP. So service management, you can do a lot of innovations in services, hospitality sector and other sectors, tourism. So many innovations are there. Nanotechnology, you can do innovations. Biotechnology, you can do innovations. Research and developments are required in all sectors, and innovations are required. It is because of research and development the India could produce the COVID vaccine at a very short time. Then corruption-free institutions of governance. I think our students might be knowing direct cash transfer. There is a scheme of the government of India, direct cash transfer. What is direct cash transfer? Like the subsidy which is given to the people or beneficiaries, Now it is not going to middleman. It is going directly in the account of the beneficiary. Direct cash transfer, whether it is the money related to the construction of toilets in rural areas, or it is the subsidy on gas cylinders, LPGs. So you can do innovations in, and then there is a online transactions. You cannot do transaction in cash now. So what is the innovations are going? You can pay it through Paytm. You can pay it in with another device. So it is a innovation. These are the innovation. Transparency in regulatory and legal framework. So these are the different sectors of innovations. How to use innovations? Friends, was a professor, very renowned professor, management guru in United States. Earlier, he was professor in Ahmedabad, but then in the mid of his career, he moved to United States, and he got a very high fame there, and he wrote a very famous book which is known Fortune at the Bottom of the Pyramid. What is bottom of pyramid? More than 80% of the population which has low income. What Professor C.K. Pehla says, that these are the people who are not earning less than $2 per day. So he says that we always consider them as poor, we have sympathy with them, but we don't want to do business with them. So he tried to explain the business models which you can do with for the masses, for the poor people. And what he says that if we stop thinking of the poor as victims or burden and start recognizing them as resilient and creative entrepreneurs and value conscious consumers, a whole new world of opportunity will open. We will give some example of these innovations throughout the world, which he has also documented in his book, Fortune at the Bottom of Pyramid. What needs is to find new and innovative approach to the rise of the challenge of this fast-growing population. The poor need to seen as a market, but one different from the conventional perception of a market about products, services, values, and needs. So, the market should be a different market with innovations, which should have a application of business model canvas. We need to identify the market at the bottom of pyramid. Bottom of pyramid means the lower segment of the population, 80% of the population, which is not very rich. Need to identify the missing links between known problems and known solutions. Identify some unique solutions. So we will discuss what are the known problems and known solutions. What are the unique solutions of the known problems? And government has to work on good governance to solve known problems. And to solve known problems, there is a need of scaling innovations. So we will discuss innovations which are missing links between known problems and known solutions, innovations which have unique solutions to known problems, government, good governance example for known problems, and scaling up of innovations. So first is known problems and known solutions. What is the missing link? Case study of Hindustan Lever Limited. Hindustan Lever Limited, through its CSR project, Corporate Social Responsibility project. So, just a second. Sheetal, can you hear me?
Yes, you are audible, sir. Yes.
And you are getting feedback from the students or questions? Are they asking questions?
I have posted, students can post their questions in the chat section.
Okay, okay.
So far, no questions, sir. However, your case study is visible here.
Okay, good. So, The first is case study of Hindustan Lever Limited. It is so. I'm sorry, the spelling is wrong here. Level. It is lever. Hindustan Lever Limited has developed a project for the poor women in South India. The project name is Shakti Project. What is the Shakti Project? That Hindustan Lever Limited has developed self-help groups of the women in South India in every village. You need household goods, every family need household goods. So these women have developed their own cooperative stores and they are bargaining with the suppliers and getting less price, and at the same time they are doing lot of other things. So this Shakti project has improved the quality of life of these poor families in terms of education and uh, education, health expenditure, and providing employment to them. Other area is known problems and unique solutions. There are many known problems, but we don't have solutions for those problems. Like open defecate, going toilets in the open areas is a it is a problem in India. We know, everybody knows, but we were not having solutions. Our Prime Minister started a solution. He developed a Swachh Bharat mission, and one of the component was construction of the toilets. So there is an example of Jaipur Fort. It is for the differently abled people. It is very cheaper as compared to the cost in international market. Other is Arvind eye care system. It is very cheaper as compared to the cost in international market for eye treatment. So the problems are known, solutions are unique. What is the unique solution? That Arvind eye care system has developed tapped the rural and urban market and developed a chain of the hospitals. And third one is known problems and system-wide reforms. We need to do some reforms in systems. Like for example, there is a problem among the poor of bank. They are not getting financial services. They are not getting loans. So ICICI Bank has started a project which has benefited 400 million people of India. Similarly, ITC eChopal has provided IT solutions to the farmer. So these are the farmers were having problems, and then he provided solution by developing IT. So system-wide reforms is comes under the innovation. Scaling innovations. We know we are a poor country, and in rural areas as well as in urban areas, women do not have access to finance, and there is a mortgage. They are dependent on money lenders. So NABARD Bank, National Bank for Agriculture and Development, NABARD has started a project which is providing money to the poor women into the form of self-help groups. So this is the how, and it is the largest financial program to provide benefits to the poor anywhere in the world. So it is the largest program. What is important in the innovation? How you can develop a entrepreneurial success by having application of a good business model canvas. You have to you have to basically face the problem of the forecasting. Many a times, generally the economist or the statistician or the management expert, they analyze demand and supply. They work on demand and supply. And sometimes by their calculations based on the data, they say, no, this is not, the demand and supply is not good, therefore we will not start this business. Another time they says that there is a problem in the starting the enterprise because of the market surveys is not giving a good report. So forecasting, the point I want to make, that forecasting every time does not work properly. Sometimes it misleads. We should not every time should depend on the forecasting. We need to work on our sixth sense. We should need to work on our wisdom. We need to work and think, listen of our own mind and to act accordingly. So the point I want to make here about forecasting. So forecasting many times it confuses the entrepreneurs. Since human behavior is a complex phenomena, to forecast, therefore forecasting is not as objective and scientific as in natural sciences. That is why many forecasting in social sciences, economics and management disciplines have failed. No single explanation can explain these problems related to entrepreneurial failures. The best way is to see cause of these failures of the enterprise, and respond accordingly by different stakeholders, that is government and all. Now I will give some example of the wrong forecasting. There was a forecasting, and I have given the fact who has done this forecasting in bracket. You will see here, this is a bracket. Lord Kelvin, Scottish mathematician and physicist. He did a forecasting in 1997. Radio has no future, when there was an innovation of transmission through radio. But now we have radio transmission, FM channels, so many channels. There was a wrong forecasting about automobile industry, and the forecasting was done by president of the Michigan Savings Bank to Horst Rackham, Henry Ford's lawyer. He was the wakil of the Henry Ford, advising him not to invest in Ford Motor Company in 1903. What he says? He said, the horse is here to stay, but the automobile is only a novelty. So he said कि हमारे पास घोड़े हैं, घोड़े ही चलेंगे, जो ट्रेवलिंग होगी वो घोड़ों के थ्रू ही होगी, ये तो खाली दिखावा है ऑटोमोबाइल का जो इन्वेंशन है। और उसने अपने जो क्लाइंट थे उसके फोर्ड, हेनरी फोर्ड का वकील थे वो, उनको रोका कि आप फोर्ड मोटर में कंपनी में इन्वेस्ट मत करो। But what has happened? Automobile industry has emerged a big industry now. Another wrong forecasting: television won't be able to hold on to any market it captures after the first 6 months. People will soon get tired of staring at the plywood box every night. Who said this? Daryl F. Jochen, head of 20th Century Fox in 1946. But television industry is a big industry now. Even the screen we are sharing, it is an initial television screen. YouTube, whatever it is, all these are coming from television. Anything related to audio visual is coming from television. Another wrong forecasting: there is no reason for any individual to have a computer in their home. There was a wrong forecasting related to computer. And who did this? Kenneth Olson, president and founder of the Digital Equipment Corporation in 1977. He says there is no future for the computer. But all these are the wrong forecastings. In the concluding remark from where I started my presentations related to entrepreneurial success and the application of the successful business model conveys why we need entrepreneurial success and why we need uh, the application of it through a business model conveys. We need from where we started the history of civilizations on the earth. Everywhere started with the entrepreneurship by developing agriculture, trade, industry, and infrastructure. For instance, the world oldest famous Indus Valley civilization was full of entrepreneurial adventures. Poverty anywhere in the world is the enemy of prosperity everywhere in the world. The issue of poverty can be addressed by inculcating entrepreneurial culture in the society. Entrepreneurship and innovations go hands in hand. Innovations foster entrepreneurial development. Vis-a-vis entrepreneurial culture creates innovations. There is a need to think out of the box and tap the vast market at the bottom of the pyramid, but in different way from conventional one based on profit. To foster entrepreneurial environment, innovation are required in corporate sector, SMEs, family business, education sector, social sector, and institutions of governance. Innovations can be related to strategy, operations, finance, human resource, technology, and regulations. So, thank you very much for listening me patiently, and I really thank to Professor Seetal for giving me this, and Professor Ghosh and GIBS for giving me this opportunity to make a presentation.
Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. But we have few questions. Would you mind taking me there?
Yes.
Okay, sir. So one of the question is.
Just a second. Just a second.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
So one of the question is, like you have mentioned, bottom of the pyramid approach. Would you recommend any other similar approaches to the students? Like, we have a lot of MBA students here.
Okay.
So they're asking for your recommendations. Which other books the person is saying would you recommend?
Basically, they are asking about the reference books.
Yeah, the books on the innovative things, like you have mentioned Bottom of the Pyramid by C.K. Prahalad. So
Okay.
they are asking for similar reference books.
Okay, so give me 1 minute. I can show 2 of my books which were published in Corona time. Just give me one.
Sure, sir.
Recently, I have published 2 books. This is the book where it is published by Northern Book Center, Delhi. The title is Dimensions of Development Policy and Governance. So I have quoted so many different kinds of the caselets in that book. Another book is on perspectives on microfinance, entrepreneurship, and social development. There are so many case studies in that. This is also published by Northern Book Center. So, but in addition to Professor C.K. Prahalad, there are many good books in management. One is The World is Flat. They should read that book, The World is Flat. It is a very important book. The management students should read that book. Another question?
Yes, sir. So the another question is that why Make in India has failed, the government's pet project, and why it is not given raise to the entrepreneurs.
See, I will tell you to the students, nothing has failed in fact. It is our perception that either we think about the failures or we think about the success. Reality is that the mortality rate in the entrepreneurial startups is very high. It is somewhere about 70% if we talk about at global level. Like if we start 100 enterprises, 70 enterprises fails. And it does not fail in India, but it fails everywhere in United States, in UK, everywhere. So Make in India is not a failure project. Rather, government of India has developed so many innovations. If you will go to the website of SML, Ministry of Small Micro Enterprises, there are a lot of incentives and schemes to start the enterprise. What is important that somewhere we need to think out of the box and start the enterprise. Majority of the startups are just in a way of fashion that X has started this business. I should also follow and start the same business. And we are a very large country in terms of the population. We basically, while developing reforms in the system, it takes time. So even government is taking time. And the best example I can give, government for improving the agriculture markets, government come out with 3 new laws. But farmers are not accepting those laws. They are saying that it is against the farmer. While these 3 laws, they will make our agriculture commodity more competitive in the market. Yes, please.
Yes, it's so nicely said. So next question is why self-innovation is not taking place in India, and whom do you think is to be blamed?
Which innovation not taking place in India?
Self-innovation.
Self-innovation. Innovation.
Well, this is a question posed by Professor Ram Narayan. So,
Okay.
Professor Ram, would you like to elaborate on it?
Yes, yes, yeah.
In the meantime, I can take up another question posed by him. He's asking that why the private institution is not acting as the Shark Tank for entrepreneurship development in India.
This is very important question. And somehow entrepreneurship development is supported by only government systems. Like we have some entrepreneurship development institutes, 4-5 institutes. Then we have regional institutes which are known as SADMAP, Center for Entrepreneurship Development. And at district level, we have district industry centers. So the corporate sector, through now they have the CSR funding provisions as well through the company. They have to spend on the CSR. They should come forward and develop some sorts of the entrepreneurial culture. Wadhwani Foundation is doing that. Deshpande Foundation is doing that. Some Infosys also, and a few organizations, they are working on entrepreneurship.
Okay, sir. So the next question is by Mr. Abhishek Singh. He's asking that what is the most important skill for an entrepreneur?
Basically, see, the personal skills are very important. You can manage the human resource, you can manage the finance, you can do the marketing analysis. But what is important, it is more of a leadership, and leadership is very important. And working and thinking out of the box.
Yeah. So very nicely said, sir. So another question related to the same. Nitish Mahajan is asking, is only reading helps in building up entrepreneurial skills, or should we join any particular program or government scheme to
See,
develop the same?
reading does not help much. See, for example, suppose I teach entrepreneurship. I teach through books, but am I also the Professor Ram has asked self innovation. Am I also an entrepreneur? स्टूडेंट्स कैन आस्क मी क्वेश्चंस कि सर आप एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप पढ़ाते हैं, आपकी कितनी एंटरप्राइजेस है, आपने क्या शुरू किया अपने जीवन में. So this is a very important question. I have started many things. I am doing at different levels in government, social sector, in agriculture sector. But this is very important question that we need to be. Now I have got the question of Professor Ram. That is, we have to be basically self-innovative.
Yeah, but I think, sir, reading the appropriate material would definitely help.
Reading will help, but
Yeah.
in addition to reading, you also need to do practice. You need to
Yeah, you have to
gain
imitate.
experience and do practice also, and should have the hands-on skills as well. That is what I am saying.
So basically, you need to walk the talk. So that is,
Exactly.
yeah. So this is the primary responsibility of everybody nowadays. Yes, sir. So continuing with the questions, Vikas Giri is asking that the books you have shown to us, are they available in the market?
They are available in the market. They are very much on the net also, and I can send reference to you, and you can in turn pass on to the students.
So now another question. The student is asking that who should be the target audience to get the maximum profits? Organized urban sector or unorganized rural market?
See, basically, lot of things are happening in urban markets. If you can go beyond urban and think in the rural areas, like helping the farmers producers organization, can work on agriculture commodities and market, agriculture market, and vegetables, horticulture, fruits, and then I think this has a very high scope to work on, and in turn we will also be helping the rural population to improve their income and employment.
Yeah. So I think, sir, that is all we have the questions. So thank you so much, sir, for joining in.
Thank
We
you
have
very much.
really cherished the talk you have given. And at this juncture, we have also with us Mr. Naveen Kumar, who is our next speaker. I welcome him, and thank you so much, sir. Once again, thank you,
Thank
sir.
you. So nice. Thank you.
Our second guest speaker for today is Mr. Naveen Kumar, Managing Director and CEO of Navshali Innovations. Sir is an alumni of IIT BHU Varanasi from the Civil Engineering Department 2014. Sir has done projects majorly in the areas of water and environment engineering. Sir is the ex-director of Acquivio, which he founded in 2014 and worked for nearly 5 years. Sir's efforts have saved more than 5 crore liters of water and 15,000 kg of carbon dioxide reduction with his innovation. Sir is the holder of Indian and UK patent on high recoveries and less wastage of water in RO-based water purifiers. Sir has received many rewards for this technology like CII Industrial Innovation Awards 2016, Top 10 Promising Startups, Top 20 Innovative Startups in Global Clean Tech Innovation Program 2016 for SMEs in India. Winner Sir is also the winner of Hot 100 Tech Award in Healthcare by the Center of Recognition and Excellence, and many more. Sir is helping organizations to solve problems, improve business performance, create value, and maximize growth. Sir has worked closely with top management, identified solutions for business troubles, and made suggestions for changes to be implemented. I would now like to invite Mr. Naveen Kumar to kindly carry forward the session.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Naveen, and thank you, ma'am, for the introduction and the invitation for this session. I'll be covering majorly session on entrepreneurial success and application of business model canvas. So, shall I start, ma'am?
Yes, sir, please start.
Okay. Today there is a boom of startups in Indian ecosystem. As you can see, after 2016, and when our Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi ji, announced a very good package for startups and how the startups will grow. So people and innovation have just came out in our country. We have seen tremendous growth in this ecosystem and seen great innovations, whether it is in fintech, agri-tech, water, or any industry you take a name, you are seeing a lot of innovation happening in our country. We are surpassing international startups on various fronts. We are winning international awards, and we are edging in all the technologies that were actually not growing. But since 2016, we have seen a rapid change in this ecosystem. Many startups have become unicorns in last year, and this year we are going to see much more. What is that thing that is coming in this ecosystem suddenly, and how people are started innovating in a short span of time? So you can say one is digitalization. The second is now people are becoming aware. Our innovators are actually working. They are getting resources. They are getting resources in the form of incubators, finance, and whatever they need today is available. The incubators basically providing the raw material and raw information to these innovators when they are gelling up. For example, I belong to a middle class family, and when I passed out from my college in 2014, I had no resource, but I approached Dr. P.K. Mishra sir in MCI, TBI, IIT, BHU, and he was ready to help me on all fronts to build this technology where I was having high recovery rates in reverse osmosis systems. So, and that help was provided by the incubator setup in IIT, BHU. So, when we talk about an entrepreneur who want to do something, so today if you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to innovate, there is ample resources available in our country, ample resources available with the government, even in the private sector. You just have to start. You just have to say that today I want to be an entrepreneur and I want to innovate something. Thereafter, when the innovation was ready at my end, I was supported by different government schemes, whether it is MSME, whether it is from Willgrow, you can say Invent Fund by TDB and Willgrow for impact funding. Then we got connected with United Nations through again MSME. So there are ample resources that helped me grow over the period of time. Now the second point comes it: what should we innovate? What problems? What are those problems that should be identified? Today, everyone is like, we have to sell this. But what actual problem lies? You have to identify that first. For example, I identify that there are water purifiers in India, and everyone is selling it, whether it is Kent, Aquaguard, or any other company. I found out that the major problem that these water purifiers are having is they are wasting a huge amount of water. For every 1 liter, they are wasting 3 liters of water. So this is the problem I identified, and then I started working over it over the period of time. So the first thing that an entrepreneur should look into is what is the problem that the market is having, whether it is in a direct B2C market, or it is B2B market, or it is industrial market. So where is the problem? Suppose take an example of Dell laptops. So initially, when I talk about 2011 or 12, when I first purchased the Dell laptop, they were having lot of service issues. And for every you can say second month or third month, the service people are coming to our hostels, and they are doing repairs in the laptop. But over the period of time, they keep innovating, they keep identifying the problems, what problems they were having in their laptops. They identify how we can sort it out remotely, how can we remove these shortcomings in our laptops. And over the period of time, they have solved those problems. And today, if you are buying a Dell laptop, so I think the service time has gone up to 1.5 years for a laptop. So this is called a problem identification. Then you have solved that problem and you have reached the masses. So the first important aspect of an entrepreneur is to identify the problem, what problem the market is facing, and then start innovating around it. So this is the solution that I have to build over it. I have to see whether it is commercial. I can commercialize it or not. Whether people will adapt it or not, or it is just a problem and a solution, and it can't be commercialized, or it is not economical viable. So all these aspects, as an entrepreneur, you have to look. In the session, we'll also talk about the business model canvas, where I'll give you some brief about how to actually see the value in every problem. So the second thing I want to share about an entrepreneur is people see that entrepreneur earns a lot of money, or they got a lot of accolades from different organizations. But you have to also see that to become an entrepreneur, there are lot of issues that an entrepreneur have to face. There are good days, there are bad days, and the bad days are really worse in the journey. The undying spirit of an entrepreneur is what makes him different, and makes him an actual entrepreneur. And this is the aspect that differentiate between a common man and an entrepreneur or a job seeker. Because entrepreneurs never give up. They reach to a place where they have to attain what mission they are on. Their never dying spirit is what differentiate them for me. Then I have noted few points, like they're always motivated. They have to keep motivating themselves, the team, because if they get demotivated, that the team will not work. So in every situation, how the life is having in their personal or any sort of life, they have to motivate themselves and motivate the team. So this is the spirit of entrepreneurship. You have to just move forward. There is no right or left. You just have to work hard and day and night. So it's not like you are working for 5 hours, 6 hours like in a job. So you have to work like 18 hours, 20 hours. It depends how much the work is and how much you want to make progress in your startup. The other trait, that is management. So sometimes what happens is, see, I come from an engineering background. I don't have knowledge of finance. I don't have accounts. I don't know how to manage HR. There are various aspects in the company. But what differentiate a person in an entrepreneurial ecosystem is how he is going to manage all these aspects. Whether it is a chartered accountant, it is a CS, or it is your HR, it is your sales team, it is your operations team. The entrepreneur should know that even he is not having those skills, but he is going to manage those people in a very in a very economical way, and so that the company will grow in future. There might be problems that the other person is smarter than you. So what else? You have to learn from him that these are the traits. Please share that knowledge with me, and I'll also grow with you. And I think after spending 6 years in entrepreneur's ecosystem, I have evolved from an engineer to have some basic knowledge in every sector in a you can say as a business. Today I can sit with my chartered accountant. Today I can sit with my legal experts. Today I can sit with my CSN, with my HR team, operations team, sales team. I can work around them and see what they are doing and how they are growing, taking a good shape in my startup. Whether some people are very good in, you can say, social media. So, and I don't have any knowledge in that, but my team is. So I appreciate their work. I manage them. Focus on this social media, and you can take your time and work around it. The only thing I focus is results. So the team actually delivers when I actually show faith in them. So this is a very common trait that comes into to an entrepreneur life: the management, how he manages everything that is surrounded to him. Next thing I want to share is creative. The entrepreneur must be creative in finding solutions to every problem. There might be problems within the team. There might be problems at the customer's end. There might be problems at your different departments. So there are a lot of compliances happening in India. So an entrepreneur must be creative to think about what I can do to smoothen these processes in my organization. There are various tools available in the market. I would like to share. I use Slack. I use Asana to manage my team. So this actually they post every day for what task they are doing. So it gives me a fair idea what actually going in the team. So then the problem we were facing is how to generate invoices, how to maintain the expenses. Then we took a software from the Zoho book. So we are managing those softwares, so accounting and finance in those softwares. So you just have to find solutions to smooth your process and minimize your time in the organization. You have to be productive, and you should be focused towards only one goal: business development. The other things that is going around your in your organization must be managed properly by you, but that must be smoothened, and the time management comes here in a very better way. Then the other trait I want to add is versatile. Means entrepreneur need to be versatile in every situation, whether he's doing this work, that work. So he needs to know if I don't know about AI, and I started working towards AI, and I told my team that you have to develop this AI software. But that doesn't happen if I myself doesn't know anything about that. So that doesn't work. I have to get into that and understand what actually is happening, whether I don't know a single code of that, but at least I should have the knowledge that this is happening. So the entrepreneur must be versatile in that aspect. Other trait is, for an entrepreneur, he should be visionary. Means what end goals are his, why he's starting today, where he's going to reach after 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, or it is just a traditional business. Suppose I say I'm going to trade this item and going to sell in the market for example, electrical appliances. So this is trading. This is not entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship says that you are going to develop something new, innovative, or you have to innovate this business model so that the market have some innovation in front of them. So where that can actually change the market. For example, I'd say like Ola and Uber. Earlier, people used to whenever they used to come out of the station, they check where is the taxi parked. But today, when they come out of the railway station or airport, they just have to check their app. Where is my Uber? Where is my Ola? So this is a problem that is being solved. You have today, the prices are fair. You don't have to negotiate with any of the taxi drivers. So this suddenly change the market, and it becomes very easier for you to commute across any city or within the city. So these type of innovations that change the market are actually what defines an entrepreneur. So coming towards our business model canvas, I would like to share the screen. Can you see my screen? Hello?
Yes, yes, yeah, we can
Okay.
see it.
Okay. So I'm going to towards this business model canvas. So what we actually do in a business model canvas, we actually record our activities. What is our business is, how we are going to run, and what are our plans that this business and how to take it to a top level. And this business model is not it's not like static, it's keep on changing when you start growing. So today suppose you made a version 1.0, and after an year you will find that will be 100.1111 type of version. So it keeps on changing when you start experimenting and when you start growing in your business. So, for example, when we talk about a business model, so first plain paper Xerox, first plain paper photocopier came in 1950. So, in their business model, that was easy to use, that no risk on originals, low operating cost, use plain paper. But for a common man, it was very expensive. It was very expensive to sell to customers. So, what they did is they started leasing it, so that becomes affordable for every customer. And now then thereafter they can take the Xerox, and it actually penetrated the market, and the market adapted for this photocopier. So as I was saying, the business model describes the rationale of how an organization creates, delivers, and captures value. It gives an overall view how your business is going to actually grow, how it is going to set up, it is going to grow, how it is going to create value to the customers, and how you are going to deliver it to the customer, and what revenue you are getting, and what are the costs involved. So everything is captured in the business model. So in a very simple way, there is a product. This is so for reaching the customers, how you will deliver them. The customers will pay the revenue, you will capture it. There will be an organization that will create value and create the product. So this goes in a cycle. So suppose you say today I am making a product. You are going to actually when you develop a product, you have to find a customer. Then that customer will pay you. You will get that money and then reinvest the money to make new products. So this cycle goes on in a business model. So business model canvas was developed by Alexander Osterwalder. I would, Now I'll start to explain how this business model work and how this canvas is used by the businesses. So it's basically a tool to create and analyze business models. You can create new business model easily and analyze and update your existing business model on a daily basis. Or you can always visit to it, that what things are not there and what I can add in this business model canvas, where my business is lagging, and what revenue stream should I choose, which market to adapt, which market to leave. So these are the few things that this model canvas solves. So there are 9 building blocks in this business model canvas, starting with number 1, customer segments. So when we talk about customer segment, we always, as an entrepreneur, thought of a beachhead segment. So what is beachhead segment? Beachhead segment is the segment which we are going to target at the number 1 and the top notch priority. So this segment is actually something that means when we start, actually there are multiple things that comes into our mind, so that we are going to target this. But what defines an entrepreneur is that we are going to solve a problem of a particular segment. This will be my beachhead segment, and after that, after I win in this segment, then I'll start moving in the other segments. So this is how the beachhead segment works. For example, I am developing a water purifier, and when I started targeting schools. So so I designed some parameters. So these are the parameters of every segment. I'm going to get the payments easily, whether the payment time is very big, payment are getting on time. What are the servicing issues? What are going to be the timings of these institutes? So based on that, all those things, we defined that school is going to be our beachhead segment. We are going to create impact in this segment, and after winning this segment, we are going to move in the other segments, for example restaurants or colleges, or you can say institutes, offices. So then you have a multiple possibilities, but selecting your beachhead segment is what create a value in the mind of an entrepreneur. So this is the first segment in a business model canvas, that which customers and users are you going to serving, and which jobs do you really want to get done. Then comes value proposition. So suppose I found a customer, he is looking for a water purifier. So the first thing comes into his mind is, why should I buy from this guy? And it's my duty that what value I'm going to propose to that customer, whether it is water saving, whether it is access to clean drinking water, energy consumption, energy savings, or the ethical values of the product and the cost. So it depends customer to customer. Some customers like number A feature, B feature, C feature. So you have to find that customer, that all those parameters are getting set in that customer's mind. So that value proposition is what a customer is looking into a salesman or an entrepreneur. For example, I'm saying that my water purifier costs like $100, but the market, from a market, a local person comes and say, I'm going to give it in a $50. So that's a 50% discount, straightforward. But then we have to show in technical terms that what is going to be the payback period. So payback period is a term which is used when you are investing some money, when you will be able to get that money from operational cost, from your current investments. So there are many factors when we calculate this payback period. So it's up to you as an entrepreneur, who have to show the value to a customer, that what product I'm selling you, I'm going in the market. So based on that, the segment is chosen, and the product is getting delivered. So next, you have a segment, you have a product. So how you are going to reach these customer segment? What are going to be these ways? Whether you are going to be direct, social media, or by other means. So references, you have channel partners, you have distributors. So what are going to be those ways by which you will reach these customers? So in this particular segment, we check channels. How does each customer segment want to be reached? Through which interaction point? So in this, we note all these things in this particular section. Coming to next, so we have reached the customers through direct, for example, direct sales. So now our next issue will be how we are going to maintain that relationship. Whether it will be one-time relationship, or it will be recurring. We are going to continuously providing, suppose, annual maintenance contracts, or whether it will be recurring consumptions. Suppose I say I'm going to sell stationery to a school. So stationery is going to be recurring. So that relation you have to build with that administration, that they don't go with the other vendors. So that customer relationship makes an impact when you show them that our costs are good, our product is good, we are keeping everything intact, we are not depreciating our quality. What are the things that we are doing to maintain this customer relations with you? Whether we are sending you emails, whether we are sending your flyers, or how we are actually maintaining this relationship with the customer. So this overall says that we have reached to customers and how we are going to maintain them. Next is, so we have made a transaction. So what are actually customers willing to pay and how much, and how you are generating those transactional recurring revenues. Suppose I say I sold a notebook for 50 rupees. So whether the customer is ready to pay for it or not, does it have a value? Or if it's not having a value, so what other resources I have to get that revenue for my organization? Like the Xerox machine, they started renting it. So you have to find a way how that customer is going to pay for your services. Earlier, what was happening in the market is people were buying cars, but today they have Ola and Uber. So, and the next aspect is when there is Ola and Uber, they are not buying cars. They are actually connecting a driver to a person who is looking for a cab. So they have a driver and a customer on the same boat. They are just a medium for this connection, and they are generating their revenues through that the revenue that is coming from the customer and the fees that getting to the driver. So that margin they are getting as a revenue stream. So there are many revenue streams that can happen in an organization, whether it is direct sales, whether it is product sales, whether it is service cost, recurring cost, annual maintenance contract, or you can say website ads, for example. Then you have some subscription fees, app premium features. So this can be anything for a particular business. So now coming to the next point, what are the key resources? So talking about the key resources, we are talking about the people who are getting involved in this particular business model. So who are these key resources? Whether it is going to be suppose a delivery person who is actually the key resource in the company, whether it is a service person for your organization, whether it is, suppose you can say SEO is your major key resources from where you are going to deliver everything. These key resources you have to finalize in this particular section, and you have to be very specific in this point. Which assets are essential? For example, your business can't run without a laptop, without a bike, without a car. So these resources will come here. And without, you have to ensure that without these assets you can't work. So you have to be very, very specific in this part of section. Going to the next point, so reaching from a customer to delivering it, and how you are delivering it, and what are the channels, what are the revenue streams. To attain all these things, what are the key activities that you are going to perform, and what is crucial, what is crucial not. Suppose you are meeting a customer on a daily basis, so whether it is essential or not, whether you have to make visits in a month or in a year, or you have to call every day. What are those key activities that you need to understand in your business? Suppose, say on day one you are saying that I have to visit that customer on a daily basis, but after 1 year you will see that you can directly drop him an email. So those activities can actually change over a period of time. Next section is key partners. So your product is ready, your customer is ready, they are paying, you are getting all those key activities sorted, your key people are sorted. Then come the key partners. Key partners actually are those people who actually work with you, and they're responsible for every activity on the you can say product side or service side in your startup. For example, you are saying you are going to get your raw material from particular vendor based out of USA, so that will become a key partner. Then for example, your website is hosted at GoDaddy or Zoho, so that becomes a key partners in an indirect way. So you have to list down those key partners or vendors or suppliers or the you can say distributors in this particular section. For example, or you can say that a particular distributor is actually who is going to take your business on a different height. So these partners that is going to come into this particular section. Moving towards the cost structure. So these are actually the gross margins that you have to calculate in this particular section. So suppose you say your product is getting sold at 100 rupees. So you say that 50 rupees is my actual cost that is going to happen to run this business. Then this 50 rupees is going to include your production cost, your delivery cost, your HR, your accounts, your finance, your legal, or whatever the sales team, compliances, and whatever the things that are there for, that you are going to incur in this business to run this business is going to come here. Suppose suppose you say you are getting 100 rupees product sold, but that actually costs you 90 rupees. Then you will realize that selling at 90 rupees, product producing at 90 rupees and selling it at 100 rupees, that gives us me a margin of 10 rupees. Then what are those activities that I have to take care that will improve my margins in the future? Then, and after doing many iterations, you reached a milestone where you are getting like 80 rupees of the final cost of production, or the final cost of the cost structure in the complete setup. Then you say, yes, I have improved by 20 rupees. So that actually create an impact in your margins. So talking about a big company, that the margin of 10 rupees is actually big for a company like 1,000 crores. So you will understand when you start doing iteration in this type of setup, and when you start growing, that every money is actually being part of this business. So we have talked about all these sections, where customer segments, customer relationship, distribution channel, revenue streams, what offering we have for the customers, what are the key activities and key resources to make these offers with the help of the partner networks, and what will be the cost structure, and what will be the revenue streams, and what cost we are going to sell to the customer. So this is how. So I'll share some examples. So for example, there is a Lemonade and Skype. Okay. So if you will see, there is a customer segment for this Lemonade, park visitors. How they are going to sell is via channel booth sale and their website. Then what value proposition they are offering to the customer, called tasty natural lemonade on the go, and how he's reaching to this park visitors through personal relations, so that they will come again and take the next orders. Who is going to be the key partners? They have to take certain permissions from municipalities. What are the key resources in this? Salespeople, ingredients, booth and equipment. What are the key activities you have to perform? Making lemonade, marketing and selling. Again, talking about the revenue streams, how the company is going to make money, lemonade sales, tips. What is the cost structure? The main cost is coming in ingredients, equipment, flyers, salaries and commission. So these are the costs that are going to be incurred by that particular business person. Talking about Skype, we have a customer segment of web users globally. So they have very well pointed out that I'm going to target web users globally. They are not going to target any person who is on the street and spend money on it. They are very specific. They are going for web users globally. People who want to call phones, their primary segment. What are the channels? What they will offer to the customer? By Skype.com, headset partnerships. What value propositions they have? Free internet and video calling. Cheap calls to phones. Then how they are going to make relationship? By mass customers. Then what key activities they are going to perform to make this value proposition? Software development. What are the key resources? Software developers and software. So for example, if they don't have the software, then they're not able to run the Skype. So this is why the key resources is a software. What are the key partners? Payment providers, distribution partners, and telco partners. So why telco partners? Because when you are making a call, you have to make certain arrangements with these telco partners who will give you some bandwidth in making these calls. Distribution partners same way, and payment providers. So how this Skype is going to get the payments from? So they are running ads, if you see on the right hand side or left hand side. So from there, and these payments are getting into to some you can say beneficiaries, where they will get the payment providers, like for example Paytm, PayZapp, in Indian scenario. Then coming to the revenue streams, so Skype out prepaid a subscription. So you are making normal calls by Skype, but when you need an HD calls, or you want to do some calls to phone calls, then they have subscription models. Then they also sell hardware as a revenue stream. What are the cost structure? What are the costs involved? You have software development team required for this software, so you have software development as a cost structure. Then for the complaint management, if a software is not running and it is not getting installed on a PC, then you have a complaint management. If there is any finance issue where you have paid the money but it is not credited to your account, then you have cost structure involved for that, managing that team for complaint management. Let's talk two more examples. One is Flickr and one is Gillette. So I'll go with Gillette. So again, for customer segment, so this is a very big company right now. So today they can target the mass customers. But when we specify what actually a beachhead segment look like, so for Gillette razors and blade, who is the one using it? Males one. So they'll be very specific. We will target males. Which males? Whether aged, young, or the 20 to 30s, 30 to 40s. So they will be very specific in that this is the segment we are going to target. So they will make some parameters that this is the segment we are going to make, and this will be our beachhead segment. So once they have won that segment, now they have moved to these mass customers. Then what will the value proposition? Razor handle and blades. And one of the most important thing in their business model is that they provide blades separately to the customers. So that also becomes their business model and revenue streams. Then what are the channels? They are going through retail, and how they are making the relationship. They have you can say, for me, they are selling blades, and they are getting the customers involved in this. That if you are taking our product, then the blades are coming separately, which you have to use again, and this will be their revenue stream. Then what are the key activities that are getting involved? Marketing, R&D, logistics. Today, if you'll see these Gillette razors and blades, you will see a lot of new products in that, and new variations over the period of time. And if any one of you is using these blades, you will see that it has evolved with time. It becomes very smooth when you are doing shave on a daily basis. So this comes when you do R&D. That's why this is one of the key activities for them. Then how you are taking this product to the market? Logistics. What are the key resources? Brand and patents. And patent is one of the key resources, because no other person can take that product from them. And here the patents can be either design patent, either it is a process patent, or it is a manufacturing patent. Something that innovation is there with that patent. And I think I have covered this part in my previous webinar, where I have described what sort of patents you can go with your products. Then you have key partners, manufacturing and retailers. Cost structure will be involved like marketing, logistics, manufacturing, and R&D. And they have specifically focused on R&D, and that's why they are growing today in the market. What will their revenue stream? The handle purchase and frequent blade replacements. So frequent blade replacement is going to be their major revenue streams for me. So once you prepare this business model, you need to validate your model assumption with your customer until you get it right. It's not you have make it and then you say yes, this is my model and I'm going to get into the market. Never do this. Get into the market, talk to customers, or before customers, talk to your friends that this is the innovation that I'm building. What are your suggestions? So out of 100 people, you will get very valuable feedbacks from where you can build your startup, and you will also get some irrelevant feedbacks, but never take it very lightly. Always see what irrelevancy this feedback is having and what I can do to solve it. And before that, you can see that this person is not giving me a feedback, then it's me who is not able to get a feedback from him. So it's also up to you, because after all, you are an entrepreneur, you have to get the things done. So time for discussion on this session.
Yes, so the question should be posted in the chat section. Before, I mean, the questions would start coming. I have one question though. It's about not about business model canvas, but it is asking that while starting innovation or startup, how do we deal with red tapeism barriers? It's a question by Vikash Giri.
I don't think nowadays it is a very chaotic thing. You just have to reach to people like chartered accountants or the legal experts who get the things done. You just have to sign those look at those documents, sign it. Nothing else. So don't think that this is a great barrier to start a startup. So these things can be handled, and nowadays for a startup, the government is very lenient on every front. There are few licenses obviously you have to take if you have a different set of business model. For example, if you are starting packaged food, so you have to get a certificate and license from FSSAI. So these is a different part. So but talking about company corporation GST, this is not a very chaotic. You just have to believe in your CA, he will get the things done. You just have to focus on your idea and how to take that product to the market.
Okay. Yes, sir. So we have another question by Nitish Mahajan. Should we prepare anything else besides business canvas, SWOT, and direct market research for the development of enterprise? Probably he is asking.
Okay, so initially, before getting into all these things, first ask yourself, are you ready or not for taking up this challenge? Because ideas can come, but implementation is very hard. Suppose I say people started OYO back in 2000, I said 2010 or 11, something like that. But implementation was always hard for it, because convincing people to take OYO instead of hotels. So before getting into anything, business canvas, SWOT, or direct market research, be prepared whether you are ready for it. Number two is what is your idea, and is there any problem or not? Means problem identification. Identify that problem, and once you have identified that problem, talk to people. Talk to as many people as you can and see what feedbacks they have. So once after collecting all those things, be ready and then move to this business canvas and SWOT and direct market research. Okay, so that gives you an edge in the market, and defines yourself that yes, I'm ready to take up this challenge.
So there is another question. Where do you find more about business analysis techniques? Do you recommend any blogs or books in particular?
So I would recommend visit Startup India website, make an account. You will get resources there, and you can download those resources, study them, and you can gel up what are the problems, and then even you can post some queries there. One. Number two, you can get in on LinkedIn. Talk to people. This is my problem, because talking to people actually solves a major problem, because they will share their experiences, what shortcomings they had in during their time, and how you can grow up. And after that, there are many books you can take from the market. For me, I haven't read any book, to be frank. I always talk to people uh, on a regular basis and ask them, this is my problem in this particular issue, what should I done. So they suggested me that, Naveen, do this. You will actually be able to in a good position. uh, for example, I was when I started my first startup, I was not able to get a design for my product. So there were other products ready-made in the market, but that was going to create a copy of it. So I asked my seniors who were also in this entrepreneurship that, Bhaiya, what I can do to solve this issue. So they suggested, Naveen, there are some designing firms. Talk to them; they will solve your problem. And I got references. I talked to them, and I got my problem solved. I just had to manage at that time.
Very well said, sir. So another question, how to identify potential target markets?
The best way is to list down all the markets you have in your mind. Okay. Then before that, find your product. What is your product, and what is the problem you are solving? Then make some parameters, like whether they will accept this product, what value they are ready to give, whether they have pockets for it, uh, how can I easily reach them, uh, how it will penetrate their mind. For example, you start making uh, keyboard and mouse. So whether these particular products are for business, for a customer, direct customer through Amazon, through Flipkart, or what are the sources, then after arriving to certain conclusion, start talking to people that this is the product I have built, whether you want to take it or not. When you start talking with whether corporates, individuals, schools, colleges, or restaurants, or any sort of market, you will understand that what is their need actually. So then after those survey, you will arrive to a particular market. This is going to be my target market initially.
Okay, sir. So another question, key partners like GoDaddy are usually our expenses. They never help us in marketing or upscaling our business, right? This is a question Nitish is asking.
Key partners like GoDaddy are usually a partner. They never help us in marketing or upscaling our business side. Yeah, definitely. They are only providing you services for domain and website. They are not going to promote on your behalf. There are different organizations for them. I mean, they are you will see digital marketing companies. So these are the companies who are going to do that. And initially you can start if this is going to be a core channel via website, so you can definitely go with online platforms to sell your product and create a brand around it. And if you'll approach a digital marketing company, they will charge you like some 25,000 or 50,000 bucks initially, but they will get your work done. So this is the comment on this.
I think we have a related question here. Shouldn't we focus on eliminating or reducing our key partners?
Well, that depends on your business model. Entirely depends on business model. In software based model, you can directly write emails, and for a company like manufacturing, or like if you say you're talking about a pharma company, their key will be producing patents and innovations around in their startup, and then directly tie up with the government to sell their products. So it depends on the business model.
Okay. So one question by Himanshi is COVID-19 brings new opportunities for new startups and businesses.
I think yes. I think in last year there are multiple unicorns that came into India, and even this year there are businesses that are coming up. One of the sector that boomed was at tech, and thereafter, once the COVID is getting sorted, then agri-tech again become a hot topic in India. One of the prime sector that evolved after COVID or during this COVID time was logistics. how to transport these vaccines from the institute to the final customer, the final delivery. The government was getting involved in making warehouses, making cold rooms, and many companies came up and solve these government logistic issues. So that was an opportunity, but it is gone now. But there you can always see what next problem that everyone is going to face in India. Nowadays, the major problem that MSMEs specifically are going to face is the damage that COVID has created in their businesses. Maybe their raw material is gone. The Chinese, due to this China ban, the Chinese companies were not able to deliver goods, and in India, major companies were dependent on Chinese raw material. So this is a great opportunity where you can solve the raw material issue for these companies being in India.
Okay, yeah. So another question by Sachin: How to convince the investors to invest in your venture, as it is a new business and not existing in the world now?
Number one, you have to show your worth, whether you can do it or not. Number one thing that an investor sees. For example, today you come to me, or I go to any investor. He will see whether this person is capable of delivering what he's promising or not. Number one. Number two, if the idea is new, you have to validate it. Validate in the terms of technology, validate in the terms with the market, whether the market needs it or not. And the third is whether the public will take it or not, whether the public will buy it or not. So when an investor sees these things, and he will actually invest. And for as per me, before going to any investor, today there are multiple incubators that are working. So there are multiple challenges the government is launching, and even the private sectors are launching. So what you can do is you can submit your ideas to these incubators and to these institutes, and build some prototype. You will get that grant. Even if you'll see Nidhi EIR, they are paying you 30,000 per month for as a resident or as a salary, where you can develop the technology in different incubators. So you rather than directly going to an investor, first get these grants, build your technology, show that this technology is ready, and then go to investors. You will definitely find the end results, and the investor will be ready to invest in your company.
Yeah. So continuing with the same question, Sachin is asking that like not many investors are interested in taking risk right now. I think it's not true, huh? Given
Not
that the
true.
government, yeah, given that the government schemes are too many nowadays.
Yes, yes. Even Sachin, I would like to share that I have just raised around 30 lakhs for my startup, and some debt funding from State Bank of India. So my total raise was around 35 lakhs in January to Feb. So it's not very hard to convince investor, and if someone is able to invest, and if he is having money, so he will invest because he has to multiply his money. That's the game that investor looks. He's interested in multiplying his money from your venture. So you have to find those and convince him.
Yeah. And given that, not many sectors are really doing these days well,
Yes,
looking
yes,
at the
yes.
real estate sector, so on.
Yes, yes,
So I
yes,
think,
ma'am.
yeah, so I think that's all we have the questions, I think. Any other questions anybody would like to put in? Or otherwise, so any concluding remarks from your end?
Uh, to all the budding entrepreneurs, I would like to share one thing. Uh, when you start this journey, so it's not going to be very easy. First, remember this: there are going to be many challenges, and sometimes you really say, "Ki I give up." But for an entrepreneur to move forward, it's the never dying attitude that differentiate him. So if you are going to be an entrepreneur, be ready that there are going to be challenges, there are going to be very hard times. So you don't need to give up. You just have to wait and patiently work hard to make the impact in the society.
Yeah. So very well said, sir. I mean, before we conclude, one last question. Sachin is asking that what is the ideal debt to equity ratio which needs to be maintained in startups?
There is not a very hard and fast rule for this. You can take 100% debt, and you can take 100% equity. Well, that depends on your business. Sometimes people say 50-50 is good. Sometimes people say 30-70 is good. It all depends on business to business. For a manufacturing business, 50-50 seems good. So again, what sort of business is this? So that is the give and take in this.
I think he's asking because there are textbooks which have got certain recommendations made.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
So it's not actually according to the recommendations. It's basically on the basis of the kind of business model you're following.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So thank you so much, sir. It is always very pleasure to have you with us. And in addition, like the way you have motivated our students and you have told them that it is the best time to develop your enterprise, and you cannot simply have all the skills, but yet you should have that imagination. Should have the right kind of attitude of managing everything. I think the students have learned a lot, and they are rightly encouraged and motivated. And on behalf of Geetaratna International Business School, I like to extend our deepest, warmest, thanks and our wishes for your future endeavors, and hope to have a sustainable relationship with you as an external expert also with the ISC. And thank you so much, sir. And it was really, really enlightening. We are deeply thankful for you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
All the best. All the best, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay.